Hello, I'm Sarah and I'm Head of Creative Arts at a state secondary school in Devon. We've been a Musical Futures Champions school for approximately 9 years now and recently underwent a Section 8 Ofsted inspection with a music deep dive. What I hope to do in this presentation is provide you with a walkthrough experience of what that deep dive process was like, from the phone call to the process actually being over, and also provide you with my top tips for surviving the whole process. So the initial phone call for us came in at 1 o'clock on a Wednesday, and the inspectors were on site at 7:30 the next day. So what can you expect to happen when you enter into that process? So if you are chosen to be a deep dive subject, you will have to meet with your inspector. That will be the inspector that is looking at your subject area throughout the day, first thing in the morning. That meeting is really important, and I'll talk to you about that next. The inspector and members of your SLT will visit a range of lessons within your department. They'll aim to see a range of key stages and a range of your other staff teaching. They'll want to meet with the teachers that they've observed, and they'll want to meet with a range of students from the lessons that they've observed. And they'll also want to see some examples of student work and how that work is assessed and how you feed back to your students. So that initial team meeting, team leader meeting, it's so important because it's in this meeting, you're one-to-one with the inspector, that you get to outline your vision, your department, talk about your teachers, talk about your learners, and why you do the things that you do and why you are so passionate about delivering music within your school. I forewarn you, there's not a lot of time. This is actually the shortest part of the day, but actually, as I said, the most important part of the day. These are the questions that I got asked. I had a member of SLT that was there and instructed by the principal to write down every single question. So my meeting actually lasted about 10 minutes, and you can see there's a lot of questions there to get through in 10 minutes. So my first top tip to you is be really succinct and to the point in your answers. I was asked about my vision for music and I went off on an absolute tangent, and within 30 seconds I'd been shot down and the next question had been asked. So make sure that you've got your kind of key points there and you're ready to go. My main piece of advice for you for that meeting is your vision is the most important part of that whole meeting, because that's where you're outlining what the inspector is going to see within your department, what they're going to see when they enter the lessons, what they're going to see when they talk to your staff, what they're going to see when they talk to your learners. And actually that's your chance to outline why you do everything that you do within your music curriculum. So make sure that you've got that on the tip of your tongue and you're able to articulate it really, really clearly. So my top tips for that initial meeting: vision, vision, vision. If you can have your key data to hand, great. But if you don't, do not be afraid to say to the examiner, I don't have it at the moment, to the inspector, I don't have it at the moment, but I will get my hands on it and I'll get it to you by the end of the day. Make sure you get it to them though, because they will hound you down for it. And finally, make sure that your school website is up to date. They'd obviously gone on our website before and printed it all off, and actually what we said we were delivering in the learning cycles wasn't actually what we were delivering in the learning cycles, because we hadn't updated the website. It's a small point, but actually I think in the wider scale and the wider impression, it's important that you make sure yours is up to date. Okay, so after that meeting, the inspector will come into your lessons. And actually, this is probably the easiest part of the day, because this is where you don't have to do anything different to what you would normally have done that day. Don't change the way in which you teach. Certainly don't change how you would normally have structured your lesson just because the inspectors come into the room. They want to dip into it literally like a fly on the wall. And the inspector even said to us, please don't do anything different, and certainly don't be one of those people that decide to teach to the inspector the minute they walk in the room. Our inspector was really happy just to roam around, free roam into the practice rooms, into the ensemble rooms, and talk to the students. The students were really happy to converse with the inspector. They really wanted to show off what they'd been working on, and in fact the inspector gave a lot of feedback to the students, which they really, really appreciated as well. Definitely a really human sort of interaction and experience. So in that initial meeting, I spoke about how we deliver 100% practical curriculum, and it's something, obviously being a Musical Futures school, that you'd expect, and it's something that we're really passionate about because it underpins everything we do. But as I'd said that to the inspector, he did raise an eyebrow, and initially I was a bit unsure why, a little bit apprehensive actually, but the inspector later said that in most schools, they may claim to have a practical curriculum, but when he actually visits the lessons to back up that claim, that isn't what he sees. Obviously, in ours, that's exactly what he saw, and he really brought a lot of praise on for that. So I would say if you deliver music practically, be really, really proud of that, and want to show that off when the inspector comes to those lessons. So my top tips for the lesson visits: don't do anything different at all. Not only will you feel unsure about what you're doing, it will also freak the students out, and they'll be sure to tell the inspector that this isn't what Miss or Sir normally does. So just don't do anything different at all. Don't spend hours creating a mega detailed lesson plan, because in my experience, the inspector didn't want to see a lesson plan at all. We also have teaching and learning packs, and again, I spent hours with the data and all of that I'm sure most of us do. He actually just wanted to use the teaching and learning pack to lean on. Certainly have it there, but what I'm saying is, just don't spend hours on these things. There's no need. Expect the inspector to roam freely throughout your department, and he will of course speak to the students. These were some of the things we recorded when he went in to talk to our students, some of the things that he asked the students. But my advice to you on this is the students will speak honestly. They are your best advocates without a doubt, and they will just tell it as it is. So anything that you talk about in that initial meeting, this will be part of that triangle that I'll talk about later, where he'll just want to double check anything that you've said. So once the inspector has been into what you teach, into what your colleagues teach, he'll want to meet with your colleagues, and he'll want to meet with a range of the students from those lessons that he's watched or she has watched. So why do they want to meet with your other staff? Why do they want to meet with the students? It's all about this triangle, and the triangle was a theme throughout the day. It starts with your team leader meeting, and it's part of the inspector wants to triangulate what you've claimed in that meeting. Is that actually what he's seen in the lessons that he's visited? Is that what they've seen when they've spoken to your staff? Do your staff understand your vision? Do they buy into your vision? And actually, is that coming right down, transpiring into your students? Is that actually the experience that the students are getting in the lessons? My experience was that the students really are your best advocates. They've got so much that they want to talk about, so much that they're proud about. In our case, the inspector was having to sort of push them out the door, and they still had more to say. So certainly, those guys will not let you down. And then the final part of the deep dive was the book scrutiny, or most music teachers now thankfully don't use books. What we do is we use Google Classroom for ours. And we'll upload recordings from the students or examples of their work. We'll feedback via that platform, and we'll also provide assessment and reflection. So again, the inspector didn't actually want to see evidence of that at all. We spoke about it in the meeting, why we do it that way. The students explained they did that. They even took MacBooks up to show him what they do and why. But again, he didn't want to know. He triangulated that, and that was as deep as that went. And that's it. That's the end. Before you know it, the inspection is over and done with. So my final kind of the small stuff that I think would have made a really big difference if I'd known it before. Certainly get a good night's sleep the night before. There is nothing that you can do in those precious few hours before the inspection that is going to make any difference. I, on the other hand, stayed up all night preparing these really detailed documents. For example, we teach a 2-year Key Stage 3, and I knew one of the questions would be, how do you teach the whole curriculum in 2 years? So this whole document hyperlinking all of our schemes of learning, showing how it matches each of the parts of the national curriculum. In the meeting, I proudly went to show him, didn't want to see it at all. Just, do you cover it all in 2 years? Yes, fine. Certainly throughout the day you'll find you are talking a lot, be that to the inspector, be that to SLT, to your colleagues, to your students, but you will find you don't stop talking for the whole day, so make sure you've got water on hand just to keep drinking. It's likely that you won't see a break or lunchtime, or if you do, it will just become part of a blur or merge into another part of the day. So make sure that you've got some food or something that you can eat on the go with you, because you're going to be a lot more productive in the afternoon if you've managed to at least have something to eat. As I said, the day will be over in a whirlwind. It really will. There's so much lead up to these things, weeks, months, preparing documentation and getting ready, that actually in a few hours it's over in a blink of an eye. So just remember that, even though you'll probably be nervous and worried, it really is over in no time at all. And be really proud of yourself, because actually be proud of yourself, be proud of your department, and let those students shine, because that is your chance to really show off what you've spent sort of weeks, months, possibly even years sort of crafting and sculpting these amazing learners. This is your chance to show the inspectors and actually get that external validation for what you do. I often think about the inspection now as sort of the tip of the iceberg, or if you're in sport, like, you've done all the training, all the lead up to that race, and the race actually is the easy bit, and that certainly was my experience of it. Congratulate yourself when you get to the end of the day. That's really, really important, because actually you'll have gone through a lot. Certainly if you're the team leader, you would have felt a lot on your shoulders to get through. If your deep dive is on the first day, the rest of the school's focus will suddenly turn to the next day, and actually for you, there's 99.9% chance that you probably won't be seen, and you can actually just take your foot off it a bit that evening and just relax and take a moment to say, well done. And interestingly, prepare yourself, or we found in my department, for a bit of a come down, because you go through all of that, all the adrenaline and that whole day. And actually, our inspector was really good, because he said in a meeting, it just happened to be in the safeguarding meeting, he actually took time to feed back informally on what he'd seen in our department, and really complimentary, and said some really lovely things. But said he wanted to say that then, because actually none of that would be reflected in the final report. That actually we'd probably get one mention in the whole report, and he didn't feel that would do us justice. So that's really interesting to know. And like I say, that informal feedback was really important to us and to our senior management. But equally, we expected the whole report to be about music, of course, and there was literally one sentence. So just that helps sort of put things into perspective. This is a really short sort of whistle-stop guide, and there's so much more that I could say. Please contact me through Musical Futures if there is any more detailed information you want. I'll make sure that our whole list of all the questions we were asked in the school across the 2 days is also uploaded for you to download. And good luck. Thank you for listening.